Was there anybody in your class at school who you hated and got revenge on? This arsehole kid in my school when I was younger bullied me since 7th grade. Just the regular stuff you'd expect from teenage douchebags. Gay bashing, calling me a faggot and so on. I'm truly convinced he's in the closet and secretly obsessed with me because he just goes out of his way to be a D. Quote, I think all gay people should be put on their own island away from everyone else. Anyway, once upon a time in math class when the teacher wasn't paying attention, he'd throw dimes and nickels at me from across the classroom and usually miss because he has a aim. I'm not the confrontational type at all and have barely spoken in the class, but this pissed me off to no end. On a particular day, one of these dimes hit me in the back of the head. The entire class was quiet and I just blew up. I turned around and said at the top of my lungs, in front of the teacher and all, if you throw another ducking coin at me I'm going to get up and punch you in the ducking face. Got no response, and everyone in the room was staring at me, so I continued, you're tough enough to throw it when I'm not looking, but won't admit it when I call you out. Pussy. I don't know what came over me, but the best part? The teacher stared for a moment before commenting, well said, and resumed teaching. He hasn't done anything to me since. Moral of the story, stand up for yourself if anyone ever picks on you. Bullies thrive on silence and their biggest fear is being called out, and I regret not doing it sooner. I was picked on continuously by I guess what most would call a bully. 10 years later he apologized for being such a douche and I accepted the apology and moved on with my life. I sure showed him. Got bullied in secondary school. Eventually I had enough and pushed him down a flight of stairs and then walked into class like nothing happened. Copied it from a post of mine a couple years ago. At my high school kids loved to embarrass kids taking it so they would kick open the store door and laugh at them. My junior year some kids a year below me did it to some nerdy kid thinking he would not do anything back. Until he came into the lunchroom with his it on a paper towel and slapped the kid who kicked the door open in the face with it. That was pretty much the end of that joke. Sometimes people give me mean replies. I downvote them. There was this lady I really despised at school. She got killed at a car crash. I laughed. There was this girl in high school that was you quintessential popular rich that everyone really hated. She was probably the meanest person I've ever seen up close. 10 years later she works at Denny's. I go in as often as possible to drum up casual conversation about my life, and then overtip as much as possible. Nothing great. 6th grade I wasn't the most beautiful girl so I was picked on because I was overweight. All the time the popular girls would pick on me. So one day I noticed the most popular girl in class had a tissue sticking out of her bra. She started picking on me and I instantly came back with I'm going to go cry about it. Can I borrow a tissue from your bra? In front of our whole class during indoor recess. Instant tears. Never seen that girl cry before. It was the best moment of my 6th grade year. Stupid comeback but it was a hitter. Never felt like such. There was another boy who was continuously picking on me. Then one day we were all playing basketball and he started again. I was so pissed that when he turned around I kicked his ass, literally, so hard that he went up in the air and then landed on the ground. Even my foot hurt quite a bit. So hard did I kick him. He stood up, then went 100 meters away while clearly being in pain and with tears in his eyes and then came back after 15 minutes and played further like nothing happened. Never bugged me again after that. In college I was friends with a guy who was gay but too afraid to come out. We started hanging out a lot, and I thought we were good friends. I didn't really understand why he wanted to be friends with me, because I was 15 and I was definitely the weird kid. People made fun of me because I was too young to be in college and because I didn't drink or have a boyfriend. Anyway, I lived in the same dorm with this guy and he had 2 roommates. Some nights he would come over to watch a movie and would stay in my room, sleeping on the floor or in a chair. I never understood why he wouldn't just go back to his room. Eventually I heard a rumor that this guy told everyone that we were sleeping together. I went to his room to confront him, but he wasn't there. I asked his roommates, and they confirmed that he'd been telling nasty 6 stories about me. He not only told everyone that we were sleeping together, but he also made up fiction about numerous 6 adventures I'd had in the past. This pissed me off beyond belief. At the time I was a virgin and this guy had basically told everyone that I was a slut. Still, I didn't tell anyone that he's gay. Instead, I replaced his hair conditioner with hair removal cream. The result was fantastic, especially because he loved his hair, and he never found out who did it. I also considered putting superglue in his lock because the university had huge fines for messed up locks, but I took pity on his roommates. TLDR. Closet gay dude used me to hide his homosexuality. Told everyone I was a slut. I put hair removal cream in his hair conditioner. I went to school with a douche who I will call Kale because that is his name. I stole his sandwich one day out of his locker, went into the bathroom, plucked a few of my down there hairs and added a little something to said sandwich. Then I sat at his lunch table and watched him eat my pubes. The day was mine. I was visiting the city where I went to high school since I lived far from my hometown at the time. I was visiting my uncles who I lived with at the time. This one day I woke up particularly early in the morning and I went outside to get a cup of coffee, and I see an old friend, my high school bully. He had the nerve to say hello to me in a semi-mocking tone just so he could excuse himself. As the good guy, I proceed to ignore him and he sits in a table nearby. He gets up to go to the bathroom. Afterwards I get up to leave and I see his wallet on the chair, must have fell from his pocket I guess, and in a discreet and stealthy manner I grab his wallet and leave without anyone seeing me perform the deed. For some reason his wallet was loaded with live cash. Must have been planning to buy a gift for someone. Bought a brand new Armani suit with his money. Don't regret it. Never saw him again. Yeah. Back in kindergarten, this punk kid would tease me for having a weird name. So one day during nap time I was sitting at my desk, head down, when I saw the kid heading out to the bathroom. When I heard him returning, I casually stuck out my leg. He tripped, face planted, got up, lost a tooth and started crying. I smiled and went back to my nap. In high school, I overheard someone saying I didn't deserve to get into a certain college. Then another person told me to my face I could still waste my education. So, I went to college, got good grades and went to grad school. The best revenge is living well. Wasting time antagonizing your enemies can only bring you to disaster and folly. I never really believed the saying success is the best revenge until recently. I was extremely skinny and weak in school, and got a lot of it from bullies. It was not a good time in my life at all. I did okay through school but somehow ended up with a decent office job making good money. I'm proud of what I've become, but I don't really see myself as any more special than anyone else. One day I was on my lunch break from work and stopped at a gas station to grab a snack and a drink. I got my stuff and walked up to the register. Behind it was Chris, let's call him. Chris liked to throw me against the lockers at school, throw stuff at me in the hallways, and just mess with me. Despite my never really knowing him all that well, he was just overall a bad person, and from things I heard after I left the school, he continued being a waste of space. So here was Chris. I was 21 when I ran into him. He had to be around 23 or so. He worked at a gas station, and from what I had heard through the grapevine was still doing a ton of drugs and whatnot. The next part of this story could go with me saying remember me, Ted, but it doesn't. I didn't say anything. I'm not a bully. He didn't recognize me from the look of things, so I just let him live his life. I just kept that victory in the back of my head, that occasionally the universe does things right, and bad people don't amount to much. I lived in a 6-person dorm. 3 of my roommates didn't like that the other 3 of us, and numerous friends from our hall, would come over and play Super Smash Bros so much, so they glued my Smash Bros into my N64. This killed the Smash Bros game and the N64. Unfortunately for them, they did this around the end of Lent. I happened to be giving up masturbation for Lent, so on the 40th day I came right into all of their shampoo and body wash. I like to think that they showered before going home for holiday to have their moms kiss them right on their semen-laced hair. TLDR roommates broke my N64 and Smash Bros because they hate happiness. I came on them and their mother's lips. In 5th grade this kid would always pick on me. Let's just call him Jason. Every day during PE he would always make fun of me and call me a weakling. I was fairly small and knew myself that I was not very strong and was usually always picked last during dodgeball, basketball etc etc. Well, one day after months of him just always making fun of me, he was in front of me making fun like he normally does, and I just decided to kick him as hard as I could in the balls in the boys' locker room. He started screaming and crying and I told him to never mess with me again, and he never did after that. After that incident though, I got more it from a lot of people because hitting a kid in the balls is really cheap, I guess it was, but he should have never ducked with me to begin with. Wherever you are, Jason, thanks for making my life a living hell for 2 years during middle school, and I hope from that point forward you never picked on anyone else. Duck you. Got bullied in school. Had to move schools. I became a fighting machine after years of torment. Saw one of bullies when I was 18. He tried to bully me again. I wedgied him. I picked him up off the floor by his underwear. I lifted him high, then started dropping, then pulling back till they tore. I dropped him on the floor and walked away. Though they may have beat the it out of me daily and I knew I could have beaten the it out of him, this was more rewarding. My male classmate was always a D, a practical joker, but he picked on me the most. He threw spitballs from the back of the class to me. I sat at the front, put twisted stapler bullets on my chair at every opportunity, called me names, sometimes pushed me around and usually got me humiliated in my class. So one day during class he was doing his usual spitballs. It was a good day for him because it landed on my hair. From that moment, something within me snapped and I got up calmly from my chair with a mechanical pencil in my hand. I stabbed him squarely at the back of his hand. He looked mortified but he took it like a champ. The lead of the pencil broke and stuck to his skin. I must have stabbed pretty deep. There was some droplets of blood from the wound. Before he could do anything, the teacher came in and started class, so he couldn't excuse himself. When class ended, I saw him bolt towards the bathroom. My friend leaned over and whispered to me, "You know that he likes you, right?" I just sat there feeling half guilty and half victorious. Welp, he didn't disturb me much after that. Oh, and this was when we were 15. Oh, TL, DR. Felt like Arnold and Helga from Hey Arnold, but with a little blood. When I was in 4th grade, this annoying 3rd grader kept messing with me. He would run up behind me and try to knock me down all the time, especially since he was just a 3rd grader that was trying to bully me. It pissed me off, and I decided to end it before it got out of control. I saw him standing there doing nothing like an arsehole one day at recess and remember how much he had been bothering me. I started running as fast as I could straight at him from across the playground and knocked him flat on his back. He got up and tackled me, and we rolled around on the ground wrestling for a little while before one of the recess monitors saw us. I got in trouble and had to write "I will not fight" or something like that 25 times during one recess. He never bothered me again after that, though. When I was a freshman, there was a sophomore who would bully me in our PE class. Toward the end of the year, the class was in the locker room changing. While I had my shirt over my face, this guy slapped my face. I finally lost it. I immediately chased after him and shoved him. This caused him to lose his balance and fall face first into a row of lockers, the kind with padlocks exposed. I felt vindicated for finally standing up for myself. But the best part was hearing all the other kids in the class ridicule him for being punked by a freshman. The girl I was dating in high school cheated on me and made my life a living hell for months after we stopped dating. After several failed relationships on her end, she realized how great of a guy I was and wanted to get back together with me. I turned her down and she cried for a long time after that. Looking back now, years after it happened, I actually feel a little bad for her. But at the time I just wasn't ready to forgive her for all the shit she put me through. I guess that was my revenge. I don't feel especially good about it though. This arsehole kept making it about me, like rumors about a friend of mine who was a girl. I suspected he always had a crush on her and was jealous of me for being so close to her. One day, I asked her out and made sure he was there. The look on his face was so priceless. It was a mix of envy, hate and sadness. I walked over later after the girl had gone and slapped him twice. And for all the he gave me, and 2 to say "duck you, suck my cock." Got a lot of fat jokes from this one kid throughout 7 of my years in school. Got them all the time from most people, but there was real hate and venom behind this one kid's insults. During a biology practical, I hid a cow's eye in his sandwich and kept half an eye on him during the lunch hour. Judging by his reaction, he got a good bite of it before realizing. After that, people were drawing eyes on his books, notes, making jokes about it. He never heard the end of it. I know this makes me lower than him, but I have no regrets. I was in an all-girl Catholic school until the end of 3rd grade. Before the move, I was terrorized by the head girl and her cronies for about a year and a half over petty at like my height. I was a head taller than most girls in school, even the older ones. My already showing lesbian tendencies, my non-flat, unusual for Asian chickass, and my reading habit. I was by no means reclusive or antisocial, and I had friends, but that never stopped the itch. She'd try to get a rise out of my friends too, but most of the hostility was aimed at me. When she couldn't provoke a response from me, she would get violent and started slapping me around. I hadn't hit her back because I came from an abusive background and swore that I wouldn't become a violent person like my dad. So the harassment continued until one day I was reading under the cathedral roof during lunchtime. They found me and forced me to kiss this poster of a naked woman. I said no and pushed her aside. Her cronies rushed in to pin me down as usual, but this time I swung my fists and hit one of them in the jaw. The head girl got mad and said, "Oh, so the dyke is finally fighting back," and jumped me. After she got in a couple of slaps, I kicked her in the gut and sent her against one of the pillars. She proceeded to get on all fours and vomit out her lunch. The cronies freaked out and urged the head girl to run. They never terrorized me or any of my friends after that. TLDR. Got revenge after having finally snapped. Sometimes you just have to fight. Lesson learned. The kids in my neighborhood were always pretty brutal towards me. I had a long stretch of awkward years, and one day early in high school I got caught up after the final bell of the day and was rushing to make my bus home. I was running in a full sprint and saw the bus pulling away. I ran after it, only to see the ringleader of my neighborhood miscreants flipping me off and throwing papers at me from the back window of the bus, and the rest of the neighborhood kids laughing at me. They never stopped the bus for me. That same kid has since had several DUIs and a laundry list of misdemeanors and now works at one of the area's only full-service gas stations. The feeling I get when I go out of my way in my shiny Audi to that gas station just to special request him to pump my gas is the best revenge I'll ever have. One day in 2nd grade, a girl stole the prize I got for winning a game of math bingo. She just went into my backpack and stole it. I told my teacher about it and she made a whole classroom search. It was in her backpack. As it turns out, there was tons of stolen loot in there. She later transferred schools. There was a guy at school who thought he was really popular and great, was on the sports team, the whole deal. Trouble was, he was a bit of a D. The only reason people put up with him was because his mum was a single parent. He had a big house and threw awesome parties. He spent the whole time we were there mocking me for being unable to take a dump in school, then one day slipped me laxative, just as I was perfecting my plan to get a date for prom. Anyway, enough was enough, so I banged his mum on the pool table in his basement. I had a bully in middle school who bothered me since I was a 4th grader. He was one of many, but none of them ever had the balls to pull something physical. The last week of my final year at that middle school, he decides to pull summit and starts talking to me in an attempt to get a rise out of me. In any case, it worked. I was fed up with everyone's it. That on top of being forced to attend graduation from a school I despised with a fiery passion caused me to drop all sense of civility and composure. Just so happened he had his mouth wide open when I spit at his face. I don't know where I got him, but I hope it was in the mouth. I figured this might actually get him to throw a punch so I'd have an excuse to go ducking crazy and bite his ear off or something. After letting one rip, he sat there dumbfounded for a little while. He then walked away and came back 5 minutes later threatening to kick my ass. He never did anything. Holding anger in is like taking poison and hoping the other person gets sick. A few people who continually bothered me for no reason in school got karma right in the butt. One is in jail because he is a useless scab. The other, I went to college with. We spoke very little. Given the circumstances, he asked me once, before an exam, to run him through some things he was having trouble with. It was the last class he needed to pass to graduate, which he already had taken and failed twice. I guess my information must have been wrong, cause he failed again. My ex cheated on me, so I made her best friend start to like me so they wouldn't like each other. In high school, this girl wiped her feet against the back of my jacket. Being an awkwardly shy kid, I cried silently inside and watched on as her friends laughed. About 5 minutes later, she tripped walking down the bleachers and fell on her face. If ever there is such a thing called cosmic revenge, that was it. One morning in high school, my buddy showed up to school, proceeded to his assigned parking spot only to find someone had parked next to him like they were blindfolded and beaten with a dead trout as they pulled in. After jamming his car into the spot, revenge next left his mind as the day progressed. Fortunately for him, that day in science class we were dissecting dead baby pig fetuses. Remembering the poor driver from, his impulse kicked in and he proceeded to steal one of the dead baby pig fetuses. For the record, these things are not cute baby fetuses like I would assume babes, pig in the city, abortion would be. They are rather gross and covered in slime and filth that makes 17-year-old want to throw up. Let me mention that during school he made a sign that cleverly said "Don't pork here." Right before the bell rang, he sprinted from the school to the lot, took the pig out of the packaging and slammed it on hood of her car, placed the "Don't pork here" sign on the right next to it and vanished like a ninja. As many people cheered and took photos, he savored the moment as the ultimate revenge had been completed. Turns out the school caught someone on a security camera running down to the lot right before school ended that day. Not sure if they knew it was him, but they threatened a lot of people that day and forced him to admit to his fetus thievery. On top of that, the girl whose car he pig bombed was kinda on the fatter side of life, so the "Don't pork here" sign greatly offended her. He got a 10-day suspension. Didn't walk out graduation but left high school a legend. TLDR. Bad driver. Dead baby pig fetuses. One high school legend. In kindergarten there was a little Mexican boy who would tease me all the time. He would pull my hair, make fun of my crayon choices and my name. Then one day he stole my lunchbox. I looked everywhere, cried, and the teacher went ahead and said she would buy my lunch in the cafeteria. She went to talk to the lunch lady, and while our class was waiting in line, I walked up to that little boy and kicked him in the shin. And then I didn't have to go to school the next day. Woo. Back in 8th grade, there was a kid who thought he was the toughest gangster to ever live. He was a tiny guy, about 5 feet tall. He would always talk about how he beat some other kids up, and how awesome his gang banging brother was. I have no idea why. Kind of a stupid thing to brag about. Anyway, one day we were in the gym playing soccer and he kept calling me a pussy to try himself look tough. At the time I was about 6 feet tall. I got so fed up with his it that I picked him up by his neck and walked about 5 feet to the soccer goal and threw him into it. And the teacher never looked up from his laptop. He never said it to me again. I think living well has been my revenge against high school. I've gotten a lot of the popular guys finding me on Facebook and asking me what's up because I guess I've gotten a little cooler since high school. I hate to be smug, but it does make me feel better. I have a great job, I look great, and my self-confidence has improved to the point where my personality and sense of humor shine a lot more than when I was a self-loathing 17-year-old. The guys aren't necessarily what makes me feel better. Just the idea that a lot of things come full circle, and though high school wasn't my peak, my 20s are going great. There was a fat kid in my 7th grade algebra class who used to consistently steal and eat my lunch every day. I filled an oatmeal cream pie with some kind of white pepper flakes my mom had at home and then proceeded to let him steal my lunch. He got detention for yelling "Oh it" in class when he bit into it, and it was awesome.